The galaxy was wide and full of light, but for some people, there were shadows hidden between the stars. Stories passed quietly from one person to another. They were not written in history books. These stories spoke of a time long ago when something dangerous had happened. It had been so long that even the name of the enemy was gone. No one could remember it. People only said it was the last species that made humans truly angry. Captain Laura Bennett stood on the deck of her ship, the Horizon. The Horizon was an exploration ship built to travel into places no one had seen before. Laura liked the quiet. Moments standing in the viewing deck and watching the endless space outside. Stars sparkled against the black, some bright and some faint. They looked peaceful, but she knew space was not always peaceful. She had heard the stories when she was a child. Her grandfather had told them in the evenings, speaking softly as if the walls might be listening. He said there had been a war, so short and so complete that it shocked the galaxy. He said humans had destroyed the enemies so fast that it frightened even their allies, but he never said the enemy's name. When Laura had asked, he only shook his head and said, "It is gone." That's how it must be. Now, many years later, she wondered if the stories were real. As captain of the Horizon, she had seen many strange things. She had visited worlds with skies that glowed green at night. She had walked on moons covered in frozen seas. But she had never found anything that connected to that old story. The Horizon was on a new mission. They were heading beyond Orion's reach into a part of space that was not mapped. The mission was to chart new star systems, look for habitable planets, and record anything unusual. Laura liked this kind of work. It was calm, careful, and full of surprises. The crew trusted her. Commander Nathan Cole, her second-in-command, was steady and serious. He watched over the crew like a protective older brother. Ensign Daniel Carter was young and curious, always eager to find something new. Dr. Melissa Turner, the ship's xenolinguist, loved studying alien languages and cultures. They were a small team, but they worked well together. Laura walked through the ship's corridors. Hearing the soft hum of the engines, she passed crew members going about their duties. Some smiled and greeted her. Others stayed focused on their work. It felt like a normal day, but in the back of her mind, the old story stayed with her. When she reached the bridge, Nathan was at his station checking navigation charts. Daniel was watching the sensors. Melissa was reading through a set of strange signals they had picked up earlier in the day. At first, Laura thought they were just background noise from a nearby star. But Melissa looked puzzled. "It's not just noise," Melissa said. "There's a pattern, almost like a language." Laura moved closer. The sound played softly. Through the speakers, a mix of clicks and tones. It didn't sound like anything Laura had heard before. Daniel leaned in, his eyes bright. "It's coming from about half a light year away," Daniel said. "From the edge of an uncharted system." Nathan looked at Laura. "Could be natural, could be artificial. Want to take a closer look?" Laura thought for a moment. This was the kind of thing their mission was meant to find. And yet, she felt a strange unease, like the air before a storm. "Set a course," she said finally. "Let's see what's out there." The Horizon turned toward the signal. The stars shifted slowly in the viewing deck's window. Laura stayed on the bridge, watching the readings come in. The signal grew stronger as they approached, and the pattern became clearer. It repeated every few seconds, like a call waiting for an answer. Hours later, they reached the source. At first, it looked like just another point of light against the darkness. But as the ship drew closer, details came into view. It was not a star or a planet. It was something built. Nathan's voice was calm, but his eyes narrowed. "Looks like a station. No power readings except the signal. It might be abandoned." Laura studied the image on the screen. The station was old, its metal frame worn and scarred. It hung in space like a ghost, orbiting a dim, dying sun. She felt a shiver run through her. "Bring us in carefully," she said. "Let's find out what's been calling." The horizon slowed, moving into a steady orbit around the station. The signal was now loud and clear. Up close, the station looked even more damaged. Whole sections were missing, and strange markings ran along the walls. Melissa leaned forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've never seen markings like these before. They're not in any known language database." Laura stood silently, looking at the alien shapes on the screen. Something about them felt wrong. Not dangerous, exactly, but heavy with meaning. Her grandfather's voice came back to her, as clear as if he were standing beside her. "Some things are better left forgotten, Laura." But she had never been one to turn away from the unknown. "Prepare a team," she said. "We're going inside." The horizon moved slowly around the damaged station, scanning it from every angle. The metal walls were dark and burned in places. Some sections looked like they had been hit by weapons. Others had holes as if something had torn them apart. The station was silent, except for the repeating signal. Laura stood on the bridge, watching the scans come in. Nathan reported that the station's power systems were almost completely dead. Only one small transmitter was still active, sending the same strange pattern over and over. No life signs were detected, but there were places inside the station where the scanners could not get a clear reading. Daniel looked over from his station. "Captain, we're getting weak energy signatures from deep inside. Could be old machinery, or something else." Laura thought for a moment. "We'll send a boarding team. I want to know what's in there." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "We? Don't know what happened here. Could be dangerous." "I know," Laura said. "That's why we're going to be careful." An hour later, the boarding team stood ready in the Horizon's docking bay. Laura had chosen to lead the team herself. Nathan would stay on the bridge to monitor their progress. Melissa was coming too, in case the strange markings inside needed translation. Daniel joined them as well, carrying a portable scanner. 2 security officers followed, armed and alert. The Horizon's airlock connected to a docking port on the side of the station. The metal hatch groaned as it opened. A rush of cold, stale air drifted in. The smell was faint but strange. It's like metal and dust mixed with something that had been dead for a long time. Laura stepped inside first. Her boots echoed on the metal floor. The corridor ahead was dark except for the light from their suits. Dust floated in the air, moving slowly in the weightless environment. The walls were covered with more of the strange markings Melissa had seen earlier. Melissa moved closer to one wall, running her gloved hand lightly over the symbols. "These are old, very old, but they're not random. This is writing." Daniel checked his scanner. No movement. No life signs. "But I'm getting odd readings from below us. Some kind of power source still running." They moved deeper into the station, passing through empty rooms. Some were filled with broken equipment, others with crates that had long since fallen apart. In one corner, they found a large section of the wall, blackened and twisted, as if from an explosion. This place saw a fight. One of the security officers said quietly. Laura nodded. "Looks like it. Keep moving." They reached a wide chamber that seemed to be the center of the station. At its heart was a tall cylindrical device still humming faintly. The signal they had been tracking was coming from here. Wires and tubes ran out from it, vanishing into the walls. Daniel tapped his scanner. "This is it. It's been running for decades at least. Maybe longer." Melissa stepped closer, peering at the writing on the machine. She frowned, then spoke softly. "I can make out some of this. It's hard to translate, but it says something like a warning." or a plea. It says, "We should have never awakened the humans." Asterisk. Laura felt the words hit her like a cold wind. What does that mean? Melissa shook her head. I don't know. But whoever wrote this, they were afraid. Before anyone could respond, Daniel's scanner beeped sharply. I'm getting movement. Small, but it's there. Coming from a lower level. Laura turned to the others. Let's check it out. They found a stairwell leading down. The air grew colder as they descended. The walls here were smoother, with fewer markings. At the bottom was a long corridor with thick doors on each side. Through the small windows in the doors, they could see what looked like glass chambers inside. Daniel wiped the dust from one window and looked in. Cryopods, he said. Old ones, some of them still active. Melissa peered inside another. There's something in there. Humanoid, but not human. The figures inside were thin and frail-looking, with skin that had a faint, dull glow. Their eyes were closed, and frost covered their bodies. A few of the pods were broken, there. Contents long gone. But several still worked, lights blinking slowly. One of the security officers stepped back nervously. Captain, are these the people who built this place? Laura didn't answer right away. She was staring at the closest pod. Something deep inside her told her this might connect to the old story her grandfather had told. But she pushed the thought aside. Daniel broke the silence. We could try to wake one. The systems are damaged, but it might be possible. Melissa shook her head quickly. That's not a good idea. We don't know who they are or why they were put here. And if that writing upstairs means what I think it does, they could be dangerous. Laura thought carefully. She didn't like the idea of disturbing something that had been sleeping for who knew how long. But she also didn't like leaving without answers. Let's record everything, she said finally. We'll go back to the horizon and talk about our next move. They turned to leave, but as they started back up the stairwell, Laura glanced. One last time at the cryopods. The frost-covered faces inside did not move. But she couldn't shake the feeling that they knew the humans were there. Asterix back on the horizon. Laura walked into the briefing room with Nathan, Melissa, and Daniel. The images of the station's strange markings and the cryopods were displayed on the wall. The crew sat around the table, their faces showing a mix of curiosity and unease. Nathan spoke first. Those pods down there, they're still active. That means whatever is inside could still be alive. Melissa folded her arms. And the writing on that machine was a warning. It didn't sound like a warning for them. It sounded like a warning for us. Daniel leaned forward. We don't even know who they are. They could be harmless. Or maybe they're survivors of something bad that happened to them. Laura listened. Quietly, she had been thinking about this since they left the station. The thing is, she said slowly, my grandfather told me a story when I was young. He said there was once a species that made humans angry. Angry enough to unite and fight like never before. He said they were destroyed so completely that no one even remembers their name. Melissa frowned. Are you saying you think these creatures are the same species? I don't know, Laura replied. But the words we found, we should have never awakened the humans. That feels connected. It feels like someone out there remembered what humans did. Nathan rubbed his chin. If they are the same, there's a reason they were put in those pods and hidden. Maybe the people who built that station wanted them gone forever. Daniel's eyes lit with curiosity. But what if they're different? What if they're the last of a peaceful people, and the ones who fought humans were something else entirely? Laura shook her head. We can't guess. We need facts. They decided to scan the station again from orbit, using deeper sensor sweeps to see if there were more pods or signs of what had happened there. The results came back with more troubling details. Deep in the lower levels, Hidden behind thick walls were several rooms filled with burned-out pods. Whatever had been inside them was gone. Only the upper cryochamber had working units. Melissa stared at the data. It looks like most of them were destroyed on purpose. The survivors were left in the upper chamber for some reason. Nathan's voice was low, or maybe they were left as a warning, or bait. Laura decided they needed more information. She gave the order to send a small probe into the deeper levels of the station. The probe moved through dark, broken corridors, its camera sending back shaky images. They saw collapsed walls, scorched metal, and piles of strange debris that might once have been furniture or equipment. In one corner, the probe found something unexpected: a mural. The mural was faded, but the probe's lights showed a clear scene. It depicted tall, thin figures, like the ones in the pods standing over a ruined human city. Fires burned in the background. In another part of the mural, the same tall figures were shown running, chased by human soldiers in armor. The humans carried weapons that glowed with light. Daniel leaned closer to the screen. "That's us. That's humans." Melissa's voice was tense. "And that's them. They attacked first, and then we came for them." Laura watched in silence. The old story was becoming real before her eyes. If this mural was true, the species in the pods had once been enemies of humanity. They had destroyed human cities, and in return, humans had destroyed them. Nathan broke the silence. "Captain, if that's the case, we shouldn't wake them. We should seal the station and leave it for good." Daniel didn't agree. "That was a long time ago. They might not even remember what happened. We could talk to them. We could learn something." Melissa shook her head. "Or they could remember everything and start the war all over again." Laura stood, looking out the viewport at the silent station. "We'll make no quick decisions. We'll take the data we have, and I'll send a secure report to Fleet Command. Till we hear back, no one touches those pods." The decision did not sit well with everyone, but no one argued further. That night, as the horizon kept its slow orbit around the station, Laura walked alone on the viewing deck. The stars outside were quiet, but she felt the weight of history pressing in. She thought of the mural, the warning on the machine, and the still faces in the cryopods. If they really were the last of the species her grandfather had spoken about, waking them could change everything. She did not notice the faint light on the station until it began to grow. One of the pods was glowing softly, and tiny sparks ran along its edges. It was activating on its own. Laura called for Nathan over the comm. "Get a team ready. We have a problem." By the time they boarded the station again, the pod was already opening. Laura stepped into the cryochamber with Nathan, Daniel, Melissa, and 2 security officers right behind her. The air was cold, and a thin mist floated around the open pod. Inside, the alien lay still for a moment, then its chest rose slowly as it took its first breath in what might have been centuries. Its skin was pale, with a faint silver sheen. Its limbs were long and thin, and its eyes large and dark opened to look directly at them. It flinched at the sight of the humans, pressing its back against the inside of the pod. Melissa stepped forward carefully. "We're not here to harm you," she said, speaking in a calm, slow tone. She switched to the ship's translation system, letting it try to catch any patterns in the alien speech if it replied. The alien's voice was soft and uneven. The translator worked for a few seconds before producing words in human language. "Please, do not kill. I do not fight." Laura exchanged a look with Nathan. "We're not going to kill you," she said firmly. "We just want to know who you are and what happened here." The alien's breathing was shaky. It glanced at the other pods, then back at Laura. "Long ago, we made a mistake. We took what was yours. We thought you were weak. We were wrong." Melissa's eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you saying your people fought humans before?" The alien nodded slowly. "We came for resources. We destroyed your cities. You answered with fire and steel. You came together, all your worlds, and you burned. Ours, none of us, thought you could. Daniel spoke softly, unable to hide his curiosity. Why are you here? Why are you in these pods? The alien closed its eyes as if the memory was painful. Some of us fled. We built this place to hide, but others feared you would find us. They destroyed many of the pods so there would be no one left for you to kill. I was kept, maybe as a warning. Nathan crossed his arms, or as bait to draw humans in. The alien shook its head weakly. No, there is no trap. There is only fear. Laura studied the alien carefully. She could see the fear in its movements, but also something else: shame. She wondered how many centuries had passed since the war. How much of this being's story was truth, and how much was something it thought she wanted to hear. Melissa asked, "What is your name? What is your species called?" The alien's expression shifted, almost like a flinch. The name was taken, erased. Even we do not speak it now. It is gone. Laura thought about the old stories. This was exactly what her grandfather had told her. Humans had wiped not only the enemy, but even their name from history. Now, here was one of them, alive, speaking to her. The alien leaned forward slightly, its voice trembling. If you wake the others, they will remember. They will hate. And the war will come again. Daniel frowned. But you're saying you don't want that? The alien's head lowered. No, I only want to live. Far from here. Away from humans. Laura considered this. She could take the alien back to human space and let Fleet Command decide. But she knew what Fleet Command would do. They would see it as a threat and end it quickly. Or she could let it go, then she would be hiding the truth. Nathan stepped closer to her and lowered his voice. Captain, if we release it, we'll have to explain why. And if Command learns we found this species alive, they might come back and finish the job. Melissa looked torn. But if we kill it or hand it over, we're just repeating what happened before. Maybe we should be better than that. Laura didn't answer right away. She turned back to the alien. If I let you leave, where would you go? Far, it said, to the empty places. I will never return. Silence filled the chamber as the team waited for her decision. The hum of the failing station systems was the only sound. Finally, Laura said, "We're not waking the others. And we're not taking you to human space. We'll find you a place far from any inhabited system, but you must promise no contact, no signals, nothing that might bring humans to you again." The alien nodded quickly. "I promise." Daniel still looked uneasy, but he said nothing. Nathan gave a short nod, accepting her decision even if he didn't fully agree. They escorted the alien back to the horizon in silence. Once aboard, it was placed in a small, secured cabin while they set a course toward an unclaimed sector of space. Melissa worked quietly on a translation program to make communication easier during the journey. As the horizon moved away from the station, Laura stood once more at the viewing deck. The derelict faded into the distance, its silent pods holding the faces of a forgotten war. She wondered if one day someone else would find them manned, what choice they would make. For now, she had made hers, and it would stay between her crew and the cold stars. The horizon drifted through the quiet stretch of space, leaving the dead station far behind. In the crew's quarters and workstations, talk about the alien was quiet but constant. Some whispered their doubts, wondering if the captain's choice had been the right one. Others kept their opinions to themselves, trusting Laura's judgment. The alien, kept in the secured cabin, spent most of its time sitting on the floor near the window, staring at the passing stars. It spoke rarely, but when it did, its voice carried a tone of deep exhaustion. Melissa visited often, asking simple questions and slowly building a better translation between their languages. One day, while Melissa was in the cabin, the alien asked a question of its own. "Why? Did you not kill me?" Melissa hesitated. "Because not everyone wants to repeat the past. Some of us believe in giving another chance." The alien tilted its head slightly. "Humans, do not forget. Your kind carries anger like a burning coal. How do you put it out?" Melissa didn't answer right away. "Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we try to bury it instead. But maybe, just maybe, we can learn to let it go." Meanwhile, Nathan was on the bridge, running navigational scans. He had been quiet since they left the station. Daniel noticed and asked, "You still don't agree with the captain's call?" Nathan sighed. "It's not about agreeing or not. It's about risk. We have a piece of living history in our ship, a history that almost no one alive remembers. If Command finds out, they'll send fleets. If that species is truly dangerous, we'll have started something all over again." Daniel shrugged. "Or maybe we'll have done something better this time." A few days later, they entered the unclaimed sector Laura had chosen. It was far from major trade routes and even farther from human colonies. The system had a single, small planet, barren and rocky, with no atmosphere to speak of. It wasn't a place anyone would settle. Laura met with the alien in the cabin. "This is where we leave you," she said through the translator. "We'll provide enough supplies and shelter to survive. There's a small transport we'll leave with you. Can't go far, but it will let you move around the system if you need to." The alien looked at her for a long time. "And you will tell your people nothing?" Laura nodded. "Nothing. You keep my life in your hands," it said. "I owe you nothing, yet you give me freedom." Laura's eyes were steady. "Then, don't make me regret it." Preparations began quickly. Daniel helped load the small transport with basic supplies, food, water, tools, and power cells. Melissa left a portable translation unit so the alien could keep learning human language if it wanted to. Nathan supervised the work without speaking much. When the moment came, the alien stepped into the small transport, glancing back once at the Horizon's crew. "I will remember this," it said. "Even if no one else remembers us, I will." Laura gave a short nod. "Goodbye." The transport detached and drifted toward the rocky planet. The crew watched in silence until it was only a speck against the gray surface as the Horizon prepared to leave the system. Daniel spoke quietly to Laura on the bridge. "Do you think we'll ever see it again?" Laura shook her head. "If things go right, no." But as they began their return course, strange readings appeared on the sensors. Melissa looked at the display with confusion. Signal, not from the alien's transport tits coming from deeper in the system. Nathan frowned. Another station? Or a ship? The signal was weak, broken by static, but there was no mistaking its structure. It was similar to the one they had found on the dead station. Laura ordered the Horizon to follow it. They found a small, derelict craft drifting in the shadow of an asteroid. Its hull was marked with the same strange writing. Inside, the ship was empty, no crew, no bodies. But in the cockpit, there was a data core still functioning. Melissa worked to access it. After a long pause, she pulled up the contents on the bridge's main screen. The file was a record, a message recorded in a voice similar to the aliens. "To whoever finds this," the voice began, "know that we ran from the humans. We ran to the edges of the stars. But they still came for us. We are hunted not because of what we do now, but because of what we did long ago. They will never stop." The recording ended abruptly, as if cut off mid-sentence. The bridge was silent. Nathan looked at Laura. "If that's true, there might be more of them out here. This one we just let go. It might not be alone." Laura's jaw tightened. Then we keep moving and keep our eyes open. For now, our part is done. But in her mind, she knew it was not over. The galaxy had long since forgotten the name of the last species that made humans angry. Now she had seen one alive and she had let it live. Whether that was mercy or a mistake, only time would tell. The horizon was 3 days away from the barren planet when the new signal came. It was faint at first, almost lost in the background of space noise. Daniel noticed it during his shift on the bridge. At first he thought it was another echo from the derelict craft they had found. But the pattern was different, sharper, almost urgent. "Captain, you need to see this." Daniel said. Laura came over, studying the display. The signal repeated. Every 6 seconds, pulsing in a steady rhythm. It wasn't random. Melissa joined them. Her brow furrowed as she listened through the translator's processing. "It's not a distress call," Melissa said slowly. "It's more like a location marker. A beacon." Nathan's voice was tight. "Could be another one of their stations, or a trap." Laura considered their options. "How far?" "Less than a day if we change course," Daniel replied. Nathan stepped closer. "We should ignore it. We've already had one encounter too many with this species." But Laura shook her head. "If there's another site like the one we found, we need to know. If there are more of them, we can't just stumble across them by accident in the future." The course was set. The horizon adjusted its path and moved toward the source of the beacon. Asterisk. As they drew closer, the signal grew stronger. Soon the sensors picked up the outline of a small moon orbiting a gas giant. The beacon was coming from a deep crater on the moon's surface. They descended carefully, the ship's lights sweeping. Over the barren landscape, the bottom of the crater was a structure half buried in dust and rock. It looked similar to the station they had found earlier, but smaller, with a single central tower jutting upward. The landing party consisted of Laura, Nathan, Melissa, Daniel, and 2 security officers. They stepped out into the thin atmosphere, their suits filtering what little air there was. The beacon was coming from inside the tower. The entrance was blocked by debris. But the team cleared a path with portable cutters. Inside, the walls were marked with the same alien writing. Melissa ran her hand along the symbols as they moved through narrow corridors. They found the source of the beacon in a circular room at the top of the tower. A small device sat on a pedestal, its surface glowing faintly. Around it were several storage crates, untouched for centuries. Daniel examined the device. "This is definitely theirs. It's sending a steady signal, but it's not just a locator, it's transmitting data." Melissa connected her tablet to the device. Lines of alien script filled the screen, slowly translating. "It's a list," she said after a few minutes. "Names, or maybe locations. Some are marked as destroyed, others still active." Leaned over her shoulder. "Active." Melissa nodded grimly. "If I'm reading this right, there are at least 4 other places like this one, still operating somewhere in unclaimed space." Nathan muttered. "So there are more survivors." The thought weighed heavily on them. If more of this species was alive, it meant the war wasn't as final as history believed. And if the wrong people found out, it could start again. Before they could decide what to do, one of the security officers called from the entrance. "Captain, we've got movement outside." Laura and Nathan rushed to the doorway. In the distance, a small craft was approaching the crater, kicking up trails of dust as it descended. Its design was alien, long and narrow, with a dark hull that reflected almost no light. "It's them," Nathan said. The craft landed near the crater floor. 2 figures emerged, both tall and thin, like the alien they had met before. They moved quickly toward the tower. Laura held up her hand to the team. "No weapons, unless I say so. Let's see what they want." The figures entered cautiously, their large eyes scanning the humans. One of them spoke in a rapid string of clicks and tones. The translator worked quickly. You should not be here. This place is not for humans. Laura stepped forward. We came because of your beacon. We need to know if there are more of you. The second alien's tone was sharp. More of us is danger for you. Your people will not stop. That is why. We hide? Melissa asked, Are you connected to the one we found before? The first alien hesitated, then nodded. Yes, we know of it. It is alone by choice. We do not want contact. Leave this place. Laura considered pressing them for more answers, but the hostility in their posture made her pause. She could feel the tension in the air. Finally, she said, We'll leave. But you should know if humans find you. Not all will choose peace. The first alien looked at her with an unreadable expression. We know. That is why no one remembers our name. That is why it must stay that way. They returned to the horizon. Without incident, but the unease followed them. The list Melissa had found still burned in Laura's mind. For other locations, for chances for the past to rise again. As the horizon left the moon behind, Laura stood at the viewing deck, staring into the blackness. She didn't know if keeping their secret was the right choice. But she knew one thing: this was no longer just a forgotten story. It was a living truth, moving quietly in the dark, waiting for the wrong spark to bring the fire back. The horizon traveled in silence after leaving the moon. The crew felt the weight of what they had learned. For other locations where this alien species might still be alive. No one said it out loud, but the thought was the same in every mind: what would happen if those places were found by the wrong people? Laura sat in her ready room, staring at the list Melissa had copied from the beacon. The names meant nothing to her, but the coordinates were clear. She could erase them from the ship's database, but she couldn't erase them from her memory. Nathan came in quietly. You've been staring at that for an hour? Thinking? Laura replied. You're thinking about whether to tell. Fleet Command, Nathan said. Laura leaned back in her chair. If I tell them, they'll send warships. If I keep it secret, I'm hiding information from my own people. Either way, it's dangerous. Nathan crossed his arms. We've already chosen to keep one of them alive. That's hiding something. The question now is how far you're willing to go. Before Laura could answer, the comm signaled from the bridge. Daniel's voice was tense. Captain, we've picked up a ship trailing us. It's not broadcasting any ID. Laura and Nathan went straight to the bridge. On the main display, a small dark ship followed at a steady distance. Its design was not human. It matched the alien craft they had seen at the moon. Have they tried to contact us? Laura asked. No, Daniel replied. They're just watching. Melissa spoke up from her station. Maybe they don't trust us to keep quiet. Maybe they're making sure we don't lead anyone to them. Laura considered this. Open a channel. Static filled the speakers for a few moments before a voice came through, heavily distorted by the translator. You must change course. You are too close to what you should not see. Laura replied calmly. We're leaving your space. We're not looking for more of you. The voice was firm. Your ship carries knowledge that will bring death. Forget the coordinates. Forget the names. Nathan leaned toward her. Sounds like a threat. Laura's tone stayed even. If you want us to forget, you'll have to trust us to do it without being chased. There was no answer. The alien ship maintained its distance for hours, then disappeared into the darkness. *4. A short time, things were quiet again. But the peace didn't last. 2 days later, long-range sensors picked up another signal. This one, human. It was a coded military transmission, standard for fleet patrols. A destroyer-class warship was nearby, and its course would bring it close to the path the horizon had taken from the moon. Nathan's voice was low. If they pick up the beacon signal, this will all blow open. Laura thought fast. We need to erase it. Completely. If that means shutting down the beacon, we do it. The crew worked quickly to prepare for a return to the moon. When they arrived, the crater was empty. The two aliens they had met were gone. The beacon was still active, pulsing its quiet message into space. Daniel and Melissa dismantled it carefully, pulling out its power core and wiping the stored data. Once it was dead, Laura ordered it loaded onto the horizon. We'll drop it into the heart of a star, she said. No one will ever use it again. On the way back, the destroyer hailed them. The captain of the warship, a stern-faced man, appeared on the screen. Horizon, our sensors picked up unusual readings near your last logged coordinates. Care to explain? Laura kept her tone light. Old wreckage, no survivors. Not worth salvaging. The destroyer captain's eyes narrowed, but he didn't. Press the point. Understood. Safe travels. The connection ended, but Laura knew the danger wasn't gone. If even one of those other 4 locations was discovered, history might repeat itself. Later, in the quiet of the viewing deck, Melissa joined her. You could have told him. You could have handed everything over. Laura didn't look away from the stars, and then they'd send fleets, burn whatever they found, and tell the galaxy the threat was gone. Again, Melissa nodded slowly. So instead, we keep the secret. For now, Laura said, until I know it's the right time to do something else. Nathan entered a moment later. We're clear of the patrol's range. The beacon core is ready to be disposed of. Laura gave the order. They approached a nearby star, released the core, and watched as it was pulled into the blinding light. In seconds, it was gone. Daniel's voice came over the comm. Captain, the alien ship is back on our sensors. Still keeping distance, Laura allowed herself a faint smile. Let them watch. As long as they stay in the dark, so will we. The horizon continued on its course, leaving no trace behind except the choices they had made. And the heavy knowledge that the past was not as far away as the galaxy believed. Asterisk. The horizon moved through the empty stretch of space, its engines humming quietly. Days had passed since the encounter with the warship and the destruction of the beacon's core. The crew was calmer now, but the memory of what they had seen still weighed on them. Laura stood at the bridge window, her hands resting behind her back. She thought about the alien they had met, the fear in its eyes, and the warning it had given. She thought about the 4 other coordinates, and how easily they could lead to another war if they fell into the wrong hands. Nathan came to stand beside her. We're almost at the edge of the charted zone. After this, we'll be heading into quiet territory. Good, Laura said softly. We need quiet. Melissa walked onto the bridge, carrying a small data pad. I've been going over my translation notes again. The message on the station wall wasn't just a warning. It was almost like a confession. Laura turned to her. What do you mean? They knew they couldn't win, Melissa said. Even before the war started, they must have realized humanity's strength. But something pushed them to act anyway. Desperation, maybe. Daniel, listening from his station, added, desperate people make bad choices. Laura nodded, and desperate choices start wars. The horizon continued on course, passing the faint light of a distant star. The alien ship that had been following them was gone now, or at least it no longer appeared on sensors. Still, the feeling of being watched lingered in the mess hall later. The crew spoke quietly among themselves. Some felt relief that the aliens were still alive, even if only a few. Others worried that keeping them hidden might be a mistake. Daniel voiced what many were thinking. If they come back strong one day, will we regret letting them go? Melissa answered, maybe. Or maybe they'll remember that we spared them. Nathan, who had been silent, finally said, sometimes mercy is a better shield than fear. That night, Laura sat alone in her quarters. She opened her private log and began to speak. Her voice calm but heavy. Fleet records will show this mission as a standard exploration run. Officially, we found nothing of interest beyond a few derelict structures. Unofficially, we found the remnants of a species once thought erased. They live still, in small numbers, hiding far from human space. For now, they are no threat. I have chosen to keep their existence a secret. The coordinates of their possible colonies will remain sealed. In this log, accessible only with my personal command code. If someone is listening to this in the future, I ask you to think carefully before acting. Remember that not every enemy needs to be destroyed. Sometimes the greatest victory is choosing not to fight. She ended the log and locked it. The next morning, the Horizon received a routine message from Fleet Command, assigning them to a new exploration route far from the Orion sectors. It was exactly what Laura had hoped, for distance and time. Before leaving the area completely, Laura ordered the ship to make one final pass through a remote asteroid field. There, hidden between the rocks, they left a small beacon of their own. It carried no coordinates, no signal of location, only a short message written in a simple code Melissa had designed. The message read, "We remember. We will not harm you. Stay safe." No one on the crew knew if the aliens would ever find it, but the act felt right as the Horizon turned away. The stars stretched into long lines as the ship entered faster-than-light travel. The crew returned to their routines, though each carried silent thoughts about the mission. Nathan stopped by the bridge before his shift ended. "You think we'll ever see them again?" Laura smiled faintly. "If we do, I hope it's not in battle." Days turned into weeks as the Horizon traveled deeper into unexplored space. New star systems appeared on their charts, untouched worlds waiting to be discovered. Yet, in the quiet moments, Laura found herself thinking back to the derelict station, the frightened alien, and the message carved into the wall. We should have never awakened the humans. She wondered if in the centuries to come, those words would still hold truer if mercy might prove them wrong. Far away, in the shadow of a dying star, a small alien vessel drifted among the ruins of the old station. Inside, two figures stood over a display, watching the Horizon's fading trail. One spoke in a low voice. "They left us alone." The other nodded. "Maybe they are not like the ones from before." And somewhere in the darkness, a fragile hope began to grow. The Horizon moved on, its crew unaware that their choice had planted a seed that might one day change the course of both species. In the galaxy's endless history, it would be a small, quiet moment forgotten by most, but remembered by those who had lived it. Asterisk,